Let me introduce Gadi, since some of you may not know who he is. He is the CEO and co-founder of Replicant. They're fairly new to CCNG, although they have players on their team that have been involved in CCNG over the years. And Gadi's got a unique perspective, as he's been involved in a number of applications that technology has been inserted to maybe, I don't know if this is an oversimplification, Gadi, but seems like process improvement seems to be the common theme. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I like the boring stuff.
Well, I'm going to turn it over to you. You kick us off, get us going, and walk us through some of this stuff. Then we'll open it up for group discussion. Thank you.
Cool. So thank you. It was fun to be in the first few minutes of introduction. I felt like I'm jumping into a high school reunion that I got into the wrong one. I don't know anyone, or I go to the wrong year of my high school reunion. But
yeah, wrong year. Nice try, making me feel old. I know how that's going.
No, I'm old too. I'm just keeping myself looking young because I shave my head. That's the trick. But nice to make your acquaintance and get a chat with you about contact centers. As David said, I've been in the productivity space and process improvement space for almost forever. I built an ERP product that became part of SAP. And then I spent the last 6.5 years directly in the contact center space. I joined a company called TalkDesk that some of you I'm sure know as the COO when the company had 20 employees and helped it grow to a few 500 employees and a multi-billion-dollar valuation. And I think out of the seeds of TalkDesk, we created Replicants. A lot of the ideas and the knowledge we got there helped create Replicant, inform the way I think about contact centers and process improvements in contact centers. So some of you probably have 20 or 30 years experience in contact centers. Mine is 6, but at least I hope to offer a specific viewpoint that might enrich you somehow. So, we'll talk a bit about trends. I want to start. I like history, by the way. I'm a big history student, so I'll talk a bit about how I see the last maybe decade or two in contact centers. And I want to dispel some of the myth about AI and automation and talk about that. Some of the challenges our customers see, and then I think how to transform your contact center today probably going to be the way we wrap it up. As David said, I'm going to stay away from predictions. I think that predictions in the enterprise, in the software enterprise space, the predictions you can make are usually rooted in the good predictions are usually rooted in strong reality. Like predicting that AI is going to be dominant in the contact center or actually in enterprise software is a really easy prediction. Making this prediction 15 years ago would have been hard. Making it today is easy. It's still going to shape the next 10 years. Just like cloud computing was an obvious prediction in 2002, 2003, and still it's dominated a lot of the cycles we have 20 years later. When things become obvious, it still takes the enterprise 10, 15 years to adopt them in full. So that's why I feel very good with predictions, because they're rooted deep in the reality of today. So, let's jump a bit into, and I wouldn't make my intro too long, but let's jump a bit into an intro and kind of a bit of a historical view of how I see the contact center space today. And just a full disclosure, in 1995, I got a first job of running a small contact center, 25 years ago. I didn't know what contact centers are. I had my aunt send me a bunch of books because she lived in New York and she had a Boston Nobles next to her house. And I learned about contact centers and back then it was call centers. From there, how rude customers can be. We have a Kleenex box. I still have one by my desk because my employees will come to me and start crying how rude the customers were. And I will just do this and here's a tissue. Here's chocolate. Let's talk about that. So, I have a good experience when there was only phones. That was the only way to get customer service. And a lot of what happened in the last 20 years, ever since, it's 25 years now, has to do with really only a couple of things. One is that over the last 20 years, we got exposed to multiple new channels. And a lot of the discussion was dominated by the interests of the channel providers. When email became popular, go back to maybe 2005, 6, 7, when email became popular for customer service, people said, oh my God, it's the end of calls. Email is going to be so much more effective because you don't have to wait on hold and navigate an IVR. You just type something and it solves the issue. The reality is email is a very lousy channel for urgent, iterative type of discussion. It's a fantastic channel for something if you want someone else to take care of and it's not urgent. But we were told multiple times email is the future. Then chat came, and if you remember LivePerson, for example, LivePerson said the death of the 800 number. This was their slogan. Chat will kill the 800 number. And again, I find it a little ridiculous because the entire self-service, mobile apps, websites, all the things you can do now directly with the companies you work with did not kill the 800 number. Of course, a chat would not kill the 800 number. And chat became a really good tool when you cannot pick up the phone and you have maybe a 1-2 punch kind of question you want to get resolved. Of course, it's not a good tool for emotional, complex conversation. So my message around channels, and you asked about it, David, is that the way I look at them is ignore what the vendors tell you because the vendors are trying to promote a specific way of doing things. Channels there's a little matrix that says, email is really great for non-urgent, complex, technical, submit your logs type of thing. This is why B2B customers love it. Where phone is really great when you want to get a response right away. It's iterative. And you want to allow this back and forth. And it can be simple or complex. And simple can be done with AI. We'll talk about it later. Complex can be done with agents. But definitely when you have a complex issue with a customer that may be emotional, you want the phone, you want the interaction, you want the human-to-human kind of connection where humans are so good at doing. And now when a new channel comes, like AI, and again, I'll get to it in more details, it's wrong to look at it and say, oh, AI is going to replace agents. That's, again, the wrong way to think about that, although it would have been of our best interest to say that. The right way to think about AI is AI will complement agents in specific tasks that AI does significantly better than agents and will not complement them or will not replace them in other tasks where agents do a much better job than AI. And it's true for every single channel in the next 15 years. So this is kind of one big trend. We got a bunch of channels and then vendors told us our channel will replace all the others. And the reality, we stuck with all of them. And all of them have a specific use in a specific place. And we need to be just smart about how we deploy them per the use case. The second thing that really kind of painted the last 20 years is broadband internet. And why it's so important? It allowed, what of course is obvious today, working from home, but it allowed to move contact centers away from buildings in North America. And we kind of went through driving productivity by taking our agents from New York or Chicago and moved them to Salt Lake and then to other outside of Phoenix and outside of Las Vegas. And then as the internet became better, we moved them to Guatemala and the Philippines. And then internet became even better. And we said, oh, gee, we can actually go 1,000 miles, true story, south of Manila to a small town in the middle of the jungle and save $3 an hour on an agent. And let's move there because there's broadband internet there as well. So we can move even further down in the in the cost structure. And what we've done with this is we haven't solved the fundamental issues of customer service. We just reduced the cost and move it further away and made it someone else's problem. In this case, the BPO. So what are these fundamental issues of customer service? They're about people. The way I look at it, the fundamental challenge of customer service is the nature of the beast, which requires you to have enough people on the phone, ready to answer the right questions based on the predicted volume of customer calls. And in reality, with all the workforce management, the workforce optimization software you ever going to use, and with the best intention, it's extremely difficult to be in a position where you can commit to an SLA, say 4 minutes for phone to be answered, and your customers are going to experience 4 minutes every time they call. Sometimes you're going to have too many, sometimes you're going to have too few. When you have too many, you waste money. When you have too few agents, you have long hold time. In a way, it became so popular to talk about flattening the curve. what call centers have been doing for years is use hold to flatten the curve of customer demand with the supply of agents. So that's a fundamental issue. And of course, it's compounds and it's more complex, where agents don't tend to stay for over a year in most companies. It's the more mundane the call flows the agents have to take, the harder it is for them to stay focused and not like spending a time looking at two screens at the same time, texting their friends. They all do that. I'm sure you know that. So the quality of the work, hiring them, scheduling them is hard, and the quality of the work is suffering, because when you don't have to engage your brain, you're going to just use half of it and use the other half to be on Facebook or chit chat with your friends or whatever it might be. So that's the fundamental issue, and I think this is where AI can play such an important role. And with that, let me just kind of get into a quick intro to what Replicant does and how AI can really help. And I'll try to give you this honest observation of where AI can play today and where it might play in the next couple of years. So a quick intro on us. What we do is we build a platform that take on tier 1 customer service calls and resolve them using AI and ML. And there's a couple of things to unpack here. The first is that our focus is on tier 1 customer service calls. This is the important distinction number one. We don't want to take on emotional, complex calls. We don't want to take the calls where the customer is hysteric. We don't want to take the calls where a human presence by itself will help. We don't want to take the calls require crazy creativity because machines are not creative yet. They may become in the future, but they're not creative yet. There's not every single person here, I don't know you, is more creative than the best machine today. Every one of your agents is more creative than the best machine available today. So we don't want those, but what the one we want is the tier 1 calls that are task and you can have a machine resolve. Great example is you don't want a machine to give investment advice to people, but you want a machine to give cash to people. ATM, we're doing it for 50 years. In our world, we don't want a machine to deal with a customer that got food poisoning and now they're very upset because that's emotional. But we want a machine to be able to place a food order to a restaurant or take a food order in a restaurant, change an address, delay a shipping, add a vehicle to insurance policy. These are all tasks, and machines are fantastic at performing tasks that have a beginning or an end and have a conversion flow. If you think of it as you have a stated need from a customer, I would like to delay, or I like to order food, and we can take the customer through a process in which at the end there's food that delivered to their house. That's a task. If you want to chit chat about your vacation in the Caribbean, that's open-ended. It's not a task. Let humans do that. So that's kind of the first focus on tier 1. The second focus is on resolution. And I know I'm going to stepping into a landmine here or into a minefield by saying I hate the word deflection. I know it's a popular customer service word, but to me deflection feels like I come and call you and you just no, go away. I don't want to talk with you. If you call many places and you say I want to find a branch, you will hear you can find a branch in www.mywebsite.com/branches. I can Google, but right now I'm on the phone, I'm driving, I want to find a branch. You deflect me. What we like to do is we like to resolve, and that's why I'm using this verb. So if you call to ask for a location, we'll ask you where you are, and you say, I'm by the convention center in Las Vegas. I say, oh, okay, so we have a branch just across the street. Would you like me to text you the address or read you the address? And I say, oh, text me the address. I get a text, I click on the link, I get a map, I walk there, life is awesome. That's a very simple task and a very simple resolution, different than deflection. And the third is we're using AI and ML to actually allow natural conversations. One of the things that IVRs did before is that they required the customer to learn IVR-ish to speak to them. So you had to say yes or no. You couldn't say you got it, affirmative, any other word that is not yes or no. If you called Greyhound and want to book a ticket, you had to say Dallas, Texas when you ask where you're living from, versus saying I'm going to leave tomorrow from Dallas, which will be the natural way you're going to talk with a human being. So we're using AI and ML to actually elevate the machine to speak with people in a human language, which is how humans are used to. And then you don't have to train your customers to know IVR-ish and anticipate how your IVR will work. So that's the bit of the of what we do in our focus, and maybe a little bit of which type of calls and tasks AI is ready to take on. And when we do that, you typically see several outcomes. One outcome is that the issue of holds disappears. The system is elastic, which means if you send us 10 calls an hour, 100 calls an hour, 1,000 calls an hour, we don't care. We'll take as many calls. It's never going to be a whole time. So it reduces, at least on tier 1 call, this pressure of having enough agents all the time. It's also deals with spikes. We talked with several customers in the AAAs of the world, and for example, the last couple of weeks were a nightmare, where they're returning phone calls on Tuesday that were placed on Thursday. This is how big the backlog was. So one thing we're gaining is elasticity. The second thing customers are gaining is increased CSAT, because 3 things happen at the same time. The customers spend no time on hold. It's a major reason for people to be upset with brands. The calls themselves are shorter and more efficient. When you pick the right tasks, the call can be half the time, because, for example, change an address might take an agent 1.5 minutes, takes us 10 seconds. You just say the address. And we put it in the system. You don't have to, there's no agent navigating 5 different screens and typing it and spelling it. And the third piece is that the pressure on the agent is reduced even by 10%, and then the agent can be much more effective. So overall, you get a better customer satisfaction. And the third is people always save money. So it's kind of the too good to be true. We often hear customers say, "Oh, I don't have budget for it. You know, in 3 months, we're going to pay you back, or this implementation will start paying you back." And we have customers, Postmates is a good example, an Uber company that since month 3 started saving on a runway of $4 million a year. So, you know, roughly $250,000 or $80,000 a month in savings since month 3. So at the end of month 3, they were at positive ROI, and they start saving over $250,000 every month. So that's a bit of the benefits, you know, people see. And I may pause here